Hi, I'm Jerry James Stone. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how to freeze and preserve fresh herbs using olive oil. It's a really great method. I think that you will find it just as easy and fun as I do. So let's get to it. Okay, so preserving herbs in the freezer is one of the simplest ways to preserve them. Much easier than drying them. It's really easy. And with just a few little steps, having the prep on this side makes it really great for when you get around to cooking, because then you don't have to deal with it at that point. That's why I like using the oil method, because you can just put fresh herbs in the freezer on their stem as they are and then freeze them and use them that way, but then you still have to chop them, and also they tend to brown. They don't last as long as using the oil method. What's great about this method is that just how easy it fits into cooking, right? So usually when you're making something savory, you start off with a little bit of olive oil, possibly some butter, saute your garlic, saute your onions, add in the fresh herbs. So what you do is you just take one of these freezer cubes and just toss them in. The oil melts, you're good to go. You already have your fresh herbs in there. It's perfect. So this method works really well for those tougher herbs. So things like rosemary, thyme. It's really wonderful on those tougher herbs. While you can do it with the softer herbs like, basil or cilantro or parsley, it's possible. I just don't necessarily recommend it. I'm not saying don't do it, but just keep in mind that it works really well with those rougher, tougher herbs. They're gonna hold up in the freezer in the oil. In fact, one of the benefits of this method is actually it will infuse the oil while it's freezing. When it comes to the softer herbs, you can have a little degradation, so just to keep that in mind. It's still possible to use. I just want you to know that what you're getting into if you decide to use those herbs too. So how do you do it? Well, here's what I like to do. First, you want to wash those herbs and get them all nice and dry. And then you can prep them using a couple of my hacks. So for rosemary, I like to use my fork method for destemming the rosemary, and then just chop it up, give it a nice mince. Say you're using something like oregano, you can use the colander for that one because the fork is too big for that. So use the colander to pull those leaves off. You can chop them up too. And then when you get to making your freezer cubes, the part that's important is to think about how you actually use that herb. So I see a lot of blogs that say, hey, throw a tablespoon of rosemary in oil. Well, not a lot of recipes are gonna use a full tablespoon of rosemary because it's really pungent. So it just depends on how you actually cook with it. You could do different measurements. You just wanna make sure that you write on the bag what those measurements are so you know in the future. So I would recommend maybe doing a ½ teaspoon measurement in some cubes, maybe a teaspoon in some, maybe a tablespoon in others, just depending on how you actually cook with those herbs. Now, what I'm gonna do, just to make it difficult on myself, it's probably no surprise to you guys, I'm gonna put my herbs in these little wonderful Wonder Woman ice cubes that I have. They're not as easy to get the cubes out of, but I like them, so that's just me. You should just use whatever's easiest for you. So chop up the herbs, put them in the ice cube trays, put in the oil just to top it off, and put it in the freezer. Leave it in the freezer at least overnight, and then just remove them from the trays and put them in plastic bags and just date them and then mark what they are if you did separate measurements. So like I said, this is a great method for keeping you cooking, right? You do all the prep work on a lazy Sunday, and then when you actually get around to cooking, you have less to do and you have fresh herbs for making all those delicious, healthy meals that you've been trying to make and have lots of excuses not to cook for. So now you have no excuse. It's one less thing that you have to do. Super simple. Like I said, just make sure that you get the measurements down. If you're gonna do ½ teaspoons, teaspoons, tablespoons, mark those bags, date the bags so you know they'll last in the freezer this way for about a year. Super simple. If you like this recipe, give me a thumbs up. If you like to cook like I do, I release new videos every single week. And hey, if there's something that you wanna see, just drop a comment below. I'm always looking for inspiration. I'll see you guys next time.